All right, in today's video, we will be discussing one of the most important topics of object-oriented programming, which is inheritance in Python. So inheritance is an extremely important concept that must be understood really well. So what does inheritance do? Let us first talk about it. So inheritance allows us to define a class that inherits all the methods and properties from another class. All right. So there are two types of classes that we use in the inheritance. One is parent class, which is also known as base class, and the other one is child class, which is also known as derived class. All right. You might also see superclasses and subclasses as the alternative names of these in somewhere out there. So if you ever see these names, never get confused because these are similar concepts. The same, these are just different words for the same concept. All right. So in parent class, basically, this is the class which is being inherited from. All right. And in child class, this is the class which inherits from another class. So what does it mean? Let's discuss it using a code example so that you can understand it better. So let's create a parent class first of all. So um, So any class can be a parent class. So the syntax is same as creating any other class. Like we created different classes in our previous videos. All of them were parent classes. All right. So let's just create a simple class first, which is also known as a parent class. So let's say we create a class named person with first name and last name as its properties. Last name as its properties and a print name method. All right. So let's say I create a class person and let's define init function init method self. I'll pass down two parameters, first name, last name, and I'll simply call them out. First self dot first name, f name, self dot last name, name, and now define print name self. Now print self dot first name, self dot last name. So now let's use the person class to create an object and then execute the print name method, which we created over here. All right. So all I have to do is just x equal to person. I'll call the class name and I'll write down the name, first name and last name. And then I'll simply call out my print name function like this. So it is giving us an error. Why is it giving us an error? We'll look into it. First, let us save this file. We'll call it inheritance.py, save. And here it is. And the error is removed now. Now let us run it and see what output it shows us. So here is our output, Irum Ghafoor over here. Now let us create a child class. Like this is a simple class, which is also known as parent class. All right. Now we are going to create a child class, which will inherit all of its properties. So let's create a child class. So to create a class that inherits the functionality from another class. This is the basic definition of child class and send the parent class as a parameter when creating the child class. All right. All right. So let's create a class student. All right, create a class named student, which will inherit the properties and methods from the person class. All right. So let's say class student and then person. I'm going to pass it down and I'll say pass. Like I don't want to add anything extra into it. So I'm just using the pass keyword because I don't want to any other properties or methods to the class. I just want whatever these properties whatever properties have been defined here or methods, I want it to be inherited into this student class and I passed it down as person. I pass the person parameter. Now the student class has the same properties and methods. All right. The student class, sorry, the student class has the same properties and methods as the person class. All right. So use the student class to create an object and then execute the print name method. All right. So x equal to, I'm creating an object x and student. I'll say new name, let's say hello world. I want to print it out. No, hello world. First name, last name, let's say Mike Tyson. All right. And I'll say x dot print name and that's it. Now let us run this code and see what output we will see out there. Here it is. Now we have a parent class method Irum Ghafoor and then an extra Mike Tyson code as well. Now let's say I want to add the init function. So far, we have created a child class that inherits the properties and methods from its parent. All right. So we want to add the init function to the child class instead of the pass keyword now. So the init function is, we already know the init function is called automatically every time the class is being used to create a new object. So let's say add the init function to the student class. All right, so let's say class, student, person, and now define init, self, f name, last name, and now let's add properties in it. So you need to remember when you add the init function, the child class will no longer inherit the parent's init function. All right. So the child's init function overrides the inheritance of the, so basically what it will do is the child's init function overrides the inheritance of the parent's init function. So to keep the inheritance of the parent's init function, add a call to the parent's init function. So to keep the inheritance of the parent's init function add a class to the parents init function. So how do we do that? All right. So we created this class student person, and then we also defined its init function over here. All right. So we defined the parent class already earlier. Now what we can do is person dot init and self, app name, last name, and now x equal to student, let's say Ike and Tyson, and x dot print name like this, and save and run it. So here it is. We have now added the init function and kept the inheritance of the parent class, and we are ready to add functionality in the init function. So Python also has a function called super function in it. So what it does the super function make the child class inherit all the methods and properties from its parent. All right. So let's say class student person define init self first name last name. Now let's call the super function like this, and this is it. It will call all of our functionalities. Let's see, like this. It is running, but we need to complete this code. So by using the super function, you do not have to use the name of the parent element. It will automatically inherit the methods and properties from its parents. So let's say we add a property called graduation year to the student's class. All right. So let's say in the existing code, let's write it down again, like the same code I'm adding. Define init self first name last name. This is the same code. I'm just writing it so you guys also can practice better. But other than that, we are also doing everything step by step so that we can know what's happening to our code in each step. So last name, this is the same old code. And now I'm adding a self dot graduation year equal to, let's say, 2020. All right. So in the example below, the year 2020 should be a variable and passed into the student class when creating student objects. So to do so, add another parameter inside the init function, like here, year. All right. So now when we have added a year parameter and we have passed the correct year when creating objects. So let's say self dot graduation year. Instead of like this, I'll just pass it down like this. And now I'm creating an object and passing the student data in it. Let's say Irum for or sorry, we took Mike Tyson for the student and 2020. And this is how it goes. Now let's say we want to add a method called welcome to the student class. Here it is. Oh, wait a minute. So already I forgot to print it out. So so we have to print it as print x dot graduation year. If you wanna print the first name, last names as well, you can say print first name, which it is already printing. It's up to you, like this. Now, if I'm gonna run it, it will print out the graduation year to me like this. Okay, so it is saying student object has no attribute f name. Why is it saying that? Mm-mm. It does have an f name. Okay, so f name and last name, we need to figure it out. Let's see. Now, if I run it, would it do that? It is also saying L name is also not attributed. So, okay. Now it is running perfectly. Just a moment. Let's see what the error. Right. So let's run it now. So it is taking the name thing from our earlier code and it is now printing this graduation year over here. Just add a method called welcome to the student class. So if we add a method in the child class with the same name as a function in the parent class, the inheritance of the parent method will be overridden. So let's say class student person finite f name year. So super init, we already did that. And now graduation year. So here is where I gotta add my welcome function. So if I print welcome and then I call my self dot first name from the parent class, self dot first name, self dot last name to the class of self dot graduation year. And that's it. So if we run that, save it as, and now if I print it, print, or let's just call this function separately and save. So now if I run it, here, welcome my test into this class friend. So this is how we inherit different functions from different classes and how the parent and child class works. I hope it makes sense. See you guys in the next video.